Giddy up again. Well, based in Silver City, New Mexico, Victoria Chick is a contemporary figurative artist and early 19th, 20th century print collector, and she's back on Big Blend Radio today. We're going horse riding. Well, not really. She's joining us to talk about the art and history of working horses in America, and her article is featured in the February through April 2019 issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. You can also see it up now. Just go to blendradioandtv.com and type in Victoria, and you'll find all her articles, including this one, and it really is quite amazing how much horses have done. You can also go visit her website. She's got horse paintings.
Yes, she does.
Beautiful ones. You go to victoriachick.com, and you can read all her articles, as I was saying, on blendradioandtv.com. But Victoria, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm really great today. We're having a sunny day for a change. I know it's almost always sunny in New Mexico, but we've had a state of rainy weather, which we aren't complaining about exactly because we can always use that. But it's nice to see the sun again.
Well, you know, it's interesting because it's cloudy here in Tucson.
Yeah.
We've had rain, and wildflowers are already coming up thinking it's spring. The doves are hanging out going, hey, it's time to have babies, baby doves, and everyone's lovey-dovey. And we're like, no, stop. We're not ready. But actually we are.
Yeah,
we love spring.
Too much too soon.
Yeah, well, you got snow, and you've had a lot of snow in your area, too.
Yes.
So it's going to be a beautiful spring season for the Southwest, for sure. You know, I know that you have horses. In fact, we were just looking at some photos from when we visited you on the beginning of our tour, our parks tour, a few years back. And we came and hang out with you with Priscilla, our little sock monkey, and her entourage of characters, and that's what I'll call them. Remember Flying Fabio, the sock monkey that flies? And we had Pinot Pony, and Nancy found a photo of Pinot Pony and your horses, the little cork pony.
Oh, okay.
Remember the little rocking horse cork?
Him.
Yeah, and there's, here's your horse's head, which is big, and here's this teeny little Pinot Pony in the paddock.
And they're talking.
And your horse is like, what is that? But anyway.
Yeah, they weren't too sure. I remember that.
Yeah.
They
well,
were a little
amazing.
skeptical.
Well, horses are always kind of like, okay, what's up there, but they're, reading your article, I know we've done a lot of shows on horses over the years and wild horses, and but it really brought it back home to me about the fact that really horses, they built America. I look at it that way, with how much they've done.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't do it without them.
I didn't realize how much, So you started as a young girl, totally. You went gaga for horses like I did.
Oh yes, yeah. You read all about them. Teased my grandparents and my mom and to let me go to the stables and take a riding lesson, which I think at that time was like $1.25, and that was big bucks when you have a 10-cent allowance a week. So you had to save up for a while. Yeah, but I always was crazy about them, and I don't think that's actually ever changed.
No, they're magical, man, and I think they're really smart. They're smart. They're curious. They're curious about things, and they're just so strong. And they're amazing.
It's amazing that you can actually ride them without them.
I think that's the most magical thing about them. You're a small person, and your horse is so much bigger than you are, and yet you can get on their back and you can direct them, and they don't mind. They don't seem to mind anyway. Especially with little kids, they don't seem to mind. So it's you sort of get transformed when you're on a horse.
And out here in the Southwest, they're used a lot. In the West, the far West, and in ranching, and so they're still being utilized. They're still work. The term workhorse is really true. For you, did you fell in love with horses? Want to go to the stables? But as a child, did you realize how much horses did for us, or is that something that grew as you grew up?
Well,
I
didn't know that was not a concept for me at the time. Although when I was young, and this was like in the 1950s, the horses were still used to pull a mower that for the highway department. So the highway department, the edges of the road were always trimmed, and it was done by horse-drawn mowing. And I know in my article I was saying that sort of had died out around the 1930s, the use of horses so much, but it really persisted in some areas longer time than that. So and I had forgotten about that until I started writing the article. So it brought back a memory.
And then also, I mean, your art. So art and horses kind of hand in hand for you as an artist when you started getting into art. Were they kind of at the same time?
Oh, yeah, as far as writing the article, yeah. I hadn't thought about it in quite a while. And so, I mean, when I was taking, well, even from when I was a little kid, my dad had a friend who was an artist. His name was R.H. Polensky, and his work was widely reproduced as etchings. And he was I met him when I was 3, and of course I was working with crayons at the time, and I used to show him like my horse pictures, and which he was pretty nice about looking at them, because he was a really wonderful artist. He did mostly thoroughbreds, mostly thoroughbred race horses. So he was the first artist I knew, the first doing the first horse out art that I was really aware of. And after that, I kind of would always see pictures. I mean, I kept drawing pictures, and I would always see pictures, and I'd look at books about horses and stuff. So it was a thing with me. But it wasn't really until I got to college when I started being aware of great art, significant art that was done with a horse as subject. And all the pictures at the time that I saw tended to be horses, horses that were beautiful, almost like horse portraits. The English artists were particularly good at that. Some of the English artists did horse prints, and they were mostly steeplechase horses or race horses, or Edward Manet did some great pastel horses. And my favorite one was Rosa Bonheur, an artist that at that time I had never heard of before, but she was an expert in doing horses, and she did this one wonderful painting. It was a very large painting called The Horse Fair, and it was full of horses being held by grooms and such. And I guess it was a painting of kind of like an auction area where they would auction off horses, so the horses always looked their best to get ready for this, and they're all gussied up with braided tails and so forth. And then
all shiny. I mean, that painting, I love that. I mean, her work is incredible. She's got the muscles down and the expressions.
It was unusual that she was a woman artist at the time. There weren't a lot of women artists at that time. So that she was so good was surprising to me also when I was taking art history, because most of the time we were just aware at that time of male artists. So
Cool for her. I think horses are really fun to draw and paint because of their muscles and the shine, and then you get the nice mane and the tail, and there's movement. Right. They're graceful, and they're kind of like flowers in a way.
Right.
And
even a horse that you wouldn't think of as being, if you saw it in person, you wouldn't think it was like the best horse in the world. When you see a painting of it, the artist can make that horse be wonderful. Not pretty, but just the artist can capture the strength and the character of the horse, and that in itself is a beautiful thing.
There's so much energy that they possess. Right. And they just, it seems like they move their body. I don't know. It's limitless to how you can paint horses. And then you have merry-go-rounds, and that's fun too.
I know.
Yeah. Horses have a presence, I would call it. Their personality comes out.
Exactly.
So, and then when I started collecting prints, that was when I realized that there were all kinds of artwork out there that didn't have to do with prettiness or oh pleasure, I guess pleasure, because some, we get away from racehorses and we get there's kind of these horses areas that are glamorous, or people consider them glamorous as activities for horses, but there's all kinds of artwork that deals with horses that just did everyday work, and like you said, at least at the beginning of the show, that there's an amazing amount of work that made horses, I would say, they helped to build America, and that is absolutely true.
Because even, there's the war horses, that really, the workhorse, the war horse, and you talk about that, and even how the cavalry used them, the Civil War, and, and I think about
plowing fields.
Yeah, and all the, we were talking about this on the show the other day about, how they were used. Like, look at the Pony Express and the Butterfield Overland Mail Route, which is my new obsession. And, the expeditions,
Right, even taking settlers across the country. They could never have gone, going, if they had to go on foot, they probably would have all died on the way.
That's for sure. They had to run from Indians, too.
Yeah, right. So, and the Indians had horses. I mean, I didn't deal much with that, but I mean, the horse was really important to the American Indian. I thought that, and I always thought of them as being like war horses or horses that were used for hunting that the Indians would use to go out and find game and so forth. So I was really surprised when I saw one print that showed the horses threshing grain. By running around in a circle. They would have them go around this kind of circular area.
Right,
yeah. So they use them in ways that I had never thought of, and it's the art that brings that out.
There's a fire truck in Nogales, just a few miles from us, that Wyatt Earp had helped push, and it was a horse-drawn fire wagon.
Yep.
And
that must
I
have
guess
been very
he got
exciting.
to throw buckets of water at Bertie Bilbeans.
Yeah. Well, they were used for that. They were used for, the police used them all the time. I mean, we think of the Texas Rangers or the sheriff riding into town on a horse or chasing the bad guys on horseback, but they also used them in like even in New York City really earlier in the larger cities for crowd control.
Right.
Because a police officer on horseback is way taller than a pedestrian, and commands a lot of respect.
Well, I got pulled over by a mounted policeman once at a 4th of July celebration on the beach. I didn't know I could walk out on the beach with my wine in Oceanside. And then the policeman said, and I started playing with the horse, and he's like, "You can't be touching the horse. You can't be drinking there. You need to go in." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that just totally ruins the fun. I want to go have my wine on the beach. What do you mean? It's 4th of July."
Well,
and he's
when we were in South Africa, they really didn't care if you
had wine on the beach. No,
there wasn't really any laws.
But
I'm sure there is now. But
I think that was my first or second glass of the day because it was a huge party. But I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, am I in Canada? Because we think the Mounties, But and the horses. I mean, it just that always amazes me about horses and crowd control. Just having horses ourselves, and my horse always being like the skittish one, And these horses aren't like that. I mean, you're in a crowd, and people do, what happens in crowds. Silliness, happens. And I'm just going to say stupidity a lot of times, And
we have
we've
got a mounted patrol here in the Silver City area, or
really?
Franklin County, actually. Yeah, and they do use it. For crowd control, and you wouldn't think how many crowds you need to control in Silver City, but and not that many. But when you have an accident, or you want to keep people away, or there's a fire area and you want to keep people from going into the fire area, there's always somebody who wants to go see something up close. So having a mounted patrol is really useful.
Cool. It's interesting, when you think about. But horses going to war, that's the thing too. I mean, that's the Buffalo
Yeah.
Soldiers, they were on
Right.
horseback, and so it's interesting because, over the years we've talked about all these different, periods of history and, just different things and how art has portrayed it. And so there is this strong line of how horses have been portrayed through the years, but as this, working and doing something for us, sometimes I think it should be our national animal,
Well, I don't think that would be out of line at all.
Yeah.
No, I think that it was one of the choices, but then I guess it was Theodore Roosevelt that made it the buffalo bison.
I like them too. I like them all, but you know what I mean. There's a symbol of freedom with it, with the horse.
Yeah.
For me, it's a strong, symbol of that, and I think that's what's so interesting about. I don't want to get into the drama of the wild horse situation, but I think that's what's so. Where it gets weird, where it's hard for people to understand a horse being completely free
Or wild.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus
Right.
we're used to them being in the stable, because even when you think of trail rides and horse shows and things like that and racing, they are also working for humanity at that time.
It's
for human beings.
difficult because for many years, and even still now, it was thought that horses were brought here by the Spanish, and horses were brought here by the Spanish. However, there is some evidence that horses were also native to North America, and that's still up for grabs. There's a circle of people who have seen the fossils and are convinced, and then there's others who say no. So
let's not start that.
So when you think of a wild horse, people can't visualize that horses, they thinking feral, and they just turn wild. But other people believe they have been born in the wild as wild horses and not descendants of horses brought over by the Spanish. But who knows? I think they're pretty, and they should just be able to run around free if they want.
They are.
Exactly.
They are
Exactly.
totally amazing.
I know. But wow.
And there's
to
so
me,
many breeds,
Mm-hmm.
different breeds are suited to different things. I think when you look at draft breeds, for instance, I mean they're always getting to the heavy work. Although some of them are very beautiful. Some of them are more some people would consider them more coarse looking, but there's a beauty to their coarse, their heaviness, their hairiness. A lot of times, some have really beautiful long hair done by their fetlocks. They usually have heavy manes and tails. And they can be any color. Any color
they
at
get
all.
a really nice furry winter coat. I was always amazed at that. Like the horse I had was part Flemish thoroughbred and part Clydesdale, and he had big
horse. He was,
black locks around his lower legs, and he had a huge long tail and a big mane. He was one big horse, man.
He looks like some of the horses that are in the painting that was done, the horse fair, by I'm trying to get her name, but Rosa Bonheur. He looks like there's that one big white horse in there, or a
with
gray.
his tail wrapped.
That's what Surtees looked like, and he was named after a race car driver, and he used to go off in the paddock and jump over the jumps and do everything on his own. He did his own shows. It was amazing.
He was having fun.
Yeah, one time when I entered a jumping contest, we did the jumps forward, and then he turned around, and everybody is clapping and all that. Next thing I know, he's doing the jumps backwards.
Not backwards from his.
He was into it.
He turned around.
The course.
He jumped. It was okay to come to those jumps, like bleacher jumps.
Right.
Oh man, that was scary, but he could do it.
But these different breeds. I wanted to ask that because, there's smaller horses, and like the Arabs, right? The Arabian horses.
Right.
But then, what about mules? I mean, that's not a. Are they on their own thing, like their own classification? Because mules, look at them, they take people down the Grand Canyon. Donkeys do. Mules have always been like a workhorse.
Mules are in the same category of equines as horses, but they are not. They're usually almost always sterile. and they are part horse and part. They could be part burro, or they could. There's also a mammoth burro that's a little bit bigger, but they are a hybrid. And they are very sure-footed. They're strong. They are very smart. They can do a lot of things very well. The Forest Service uses them extensively as pack animals, but they're also good riding animals.
Well, they're known for being stubborn. That's all I know about them.
Well, so they're very smart. I mentioned that. And if they decide there's something that they really don't want to do, or you're asking them to do something foolhardy, they will just stop. They will just balk, and they will not do it. They will. Like we had a trail ride a couple of years ago, and this really nice mule. Very good mule. And he went out the first day, and he did an excellent job, and his rider was taking him out the second day, and he got about a mile from camp. He wasn't supposed to ride as far as he had the first day, but he didn't know that. And he got about a mile out of camp, and he decided that was really enough for the day. And he wouldn't go any farther. So, and the poor lady, she was trying to get him to go, but there was no way. So she turned him around, and he just walked right back to camp.
Oh, how funny.
Well, they say stubborn is a mule for a reason.
Yeah, they do. So
it's like it's dinner time. I'm going home.
Quite a bit, but they're smart. They know they did what they did yesterday, and they really don't want to do it again, and you're not going to convince them.
Yeah. Okay, so the mule, because I've always been fascinated by them, but because they really are like hardy, but horses are too. And you were saying about the different breeds, and then it's like the different breeds and the different gaits about how they, there's Trotton in England.
Right.
Trotton.
Well, right now in the United States there are all kinds of associations for different kinds of gaited horses, and if we go back to the founding of the colonies, and they brought horses over from England. They may have been thoroughbred type, but they're probably crossed with some other maybe heavier animal. But then there were three thoroughbred bloodlines, and each one of them was one half was a thoroughbred, or what we would call a thoroughbred. The other, although they didn't call them thoroughbreds at the time, the other, then they were bred with Arabian horses. So that they developed three stallions out of that, and those three stallions then were the foundation stock for thoroughbreds. But then not every thoroughbred is going to win the race. Okay, so some of the ones that were maybe less speedy, they were taken off and did other things. Some of them became just saddle horses. Some of them pulled buggies or lighter weight vehicles, and then those horses were crossed with other kinds of horses. The Morgan horse, for instance, developed, and it was a very utilitarian horse. They have some Arabian blood, some thoroughbred blood. And it was speedy. It could pull plow. It could haul logs, which is what it did a lot of those things. All in one horse would do all those kinds of things because they were like a utility vehicle. They were a utility horse, and so when we get as time passes, certain horses were bred to similar horses, and they became a separate type of horse. And sometimes they would be, there would be enough of a standardization in the type that we would start to consider them a breed. And then within breeds, certain horses would have maybe a peculiar way of walking. And so, and then somebody would say, well, that's really nice. I like riding that horse. And they would find another horse that was of a similar gait, or they would breed that horse to another horse, and maybe the offspring might be have a similar gait. It was a recessive gene. So
Mhm.
anyway, you've got all these crossbreedings and so forth, or then you would breed type to type if you had enough crossbreeds that had a similar characteristic. And so eventually you would have a gaited horse, like a Tennessee walking horse, for instance, or a Missouri foxtrotter, or a Rocky Mountain horse that had a particular kind of gait that was extremely comfortable to ride. And those kind of horses became very popular. And they're especially popular right now with people who do trail riding.
What about horses that are used to round up cattle? And because I have to ask this, because we're in the Southwest and there's cattle and there's cowboys. We have
Right.
cowboys out here, and I go, ooh, look at that.
Right.
You
well,
know.
right now, I mean, they developed from the thoroughbred and from Mustangs. They developed the American quarter horse. I mean, it took a while of breeding and crossbreeding for that to happen. The original quarter horse was rather short, maybe like 14'2", and had a finely chiseled head. It had fairly large feet. It also had the ability to be interested in cows or cattle, and so it was quick. Almost cat-like in its movement. So if you could have a quarter horse facing a herd, facing a calf that was trying to get away from it, it could anticipate the movement or the direction of that calf, and it could get there first and head that calf off and push it back into the herd, so you didn't have cattle strung out all over the place when you were trying to get them to market. So it was a very utilitarian horse. It was really had a lot of uses, and it was a comfortable horse to ride. It was a very smart horse. So, but there's quite a bit of thoroughbred blood in quarter horses, and in some lines of breeding, there's maybe more thoroughbred than in others. You notice that not every quarter horse is the same height or the same heaviness. Some quarter horses are used for roping. Some are used for racing. There's a lot of ways they're used, and within that breed, there are different types.
It's amazing, man. It's really the world of the horse. This is cool. I think we have to do all kinds of series on horses now.
Well, it's more complicated than a person might think. And up in the Pacific Northwest, well, maybe more inland, but like Wyoming, for instance, Utah. There were the spotted horses, and there's purse horses that were used very early on, and the Indians.
The Appaloosa,
particular markings that were, I thought, seemed to be unusual. But if you look at pictures of horses from Europe back in the 17th and 18th centuries, they were mostly done. You'll see horses, whitish horses with similar markings. So they're not that unique. So somewhere those genes, all those genes are in all these horses, and when a breed develops, it's usually developed because you're breeding and you're trying to capture recessive genes for there to be a particular for particular type or particular color.
The Lipizzaner. I mean,
oh my gosh!
But would it be possible to teach another kind of horse to do what Lipizzaners do? Because they seem to be able to march in step with each other, and
well, those are actually they're not methods that are learned exactly, because they're trying to exaggerate what the horse can already has the capability of doing. And some horses, because of their conformation, are going to be more capable than others. But those are what the Lipizzaners do are basically defensive measures that all horses might have the capability, or most horses would have the capability of doing. But they don't. They're not. I mean, the Nipizzaner has been trained and starts training very early, on the ground when he's young. Maybe he's 2 years old when his handler starts training him to do some of these things, and gradually build up to more complex movements that require more mature muscles and more mature bones before they can really do them well. Yeah,
they're
amazing.
Really beautiful.
Well, this is just like doing family history. You do your DNA and you'll find out your relatives in 20 countries. You're related to all these different species or tribes or people types, whatever we want to say, But it's the same thing. I mean, it's all spread out, But so now when they try to do a thoroughbred, so thoroughbred is like that's the purebred, but it's almost its own species now, right? Does that even make sense?
Well, it's not a species, but it's a definite kind. Within a species. Yeah. Let's see. The Arabian is in so many bloodlines now, so many types of horses, and that it's contributed a lot to the development of a lot of different kind of breeds, and once a type is developed, they start breeding type to type. They very seldom bring in outside blood again. They don't introduce new bloodline into a breed where the type is already pretty well established. And
do you think that they're? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say sometimes when that happens, then the breed starts to weaken because you are breeding to bring out recessive genes. And if you keep doing that and keep doing it without putting in strengthening the breed with something from the outside, you may start getting also recessive qualities you don't want. So
what about like high-strung horses? Because I've always heard like thoroughbreds tend to be high-strung.
High-strung is usually a product of the way a horse is handled.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are hot-blooded horses, we call them, like race horses, Arabians probably, but even hot-blood horses can behave themselves. But sometimes when you show a horse, or people show horses, and they're supposed to be animated, or they're supposed to be, whatever, they don't pay any attention to that. They want them to look really spacey. Arabians get a big negative from that, because sometimes their handlers don't really handle them very well. And so they'll say, oh, those crazy Arabians, they're always hyper, but they're really not. They don't have to be, I should say. Individuals, we do see that. And generally it's just because they've got them excited before they bring in the show ring, because they've been exposing them to loud noises or a whip or whatever. There are all kinds of ways that people mess up their horses.
I believe it.
They do it because they're trying to operate on human standards rather than horsey standards. And another example of that is what Tennessee Walking Horse show people did with building up. They wanted to exaggerate the beautiful, already natural, beautiful gait that a Tennessee Walking Horse has, and so they would put they would stack wooden blocks, so the horse, and they would nail them to the shoes, and so the horse has this exaggerated hoof length what looks like a hoof length, but it's just like it's like walking on high heels in a way, and they don't do that anymore. So, or they would soar the horse so that the horse, would hold its tail higher. They would put ginger and other things, mustard, underneath their tails
Well,
and
that's
irritate.
mean.
That's
Well,
not nice.
It is mean, and but they were doing it for show, and not, I mean, they were taking a nice animal with beautiful gaits and a natural tail carriage, and trying to exaggerate everything so that they would stand out amongst all their other show horses. And they don't. Their breed associations eventually say you cannot do that, and so that's not done like it used to be.
Oh, that's good. I mean, who would like
Yeah.
that? I mean, put cinnamon,
Right.
In your tail. That's not cool.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
why horses are always sniffing the other ones.
Did you get mustard or ginger?
Yeah.
Oh, really nice. This is where we always end. Nice one, Nancy. Well, no, but it's fascinating, and I think to me, when you look at the images, in the article, and you really see how much horses work, and I just think we owe them a lot. We owe the horse, we should respect and honor them, because they've really done so much. They've, and they never really asked for it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
No,
I look at that.
They really do so much, and their pain level is extremely high. I have found. I had a horse that I was getting ready to ride, and I rode him only about 7 miles. But it was a hot, humid day, and came home, and about a week later he colicked. So he's having some kind of gastric distress, and he had colicked, before, and I'd always called the vet, and we took care of that, and he'd be okay for a while. Well, about a week later, he colicked again, and I called the vet, and we worked all night to try and get the horse over this colic condition, and eventually we had to put him down about 3 minutes before he would have died anyway. And so the vet said he wanted to do a post-op on him to see what the cause was. And so he said, I don't want you to be here for it. So I went to the house, and he cut the horse open and came back, and he said, your horse had cancer in nearly every organ.
Oh.
And I couldn't, I understood what he was saying, but it was, what I'd asked the horse to do the week before, he did 7 miles, took me 7 miles with no complaint at all. I felt so badly.
Oh, wow.
But there was no way I could have known this.
Yeah.
But when we think of what these animals do, and probably and have done for human beings, as long as there's been a relationship between horses and human beings, that they are amazingly uncomplaining.
Yeah, they're very, very strong. There's just this inner core and beauty. I love seeing horses just run free, and
me too.
And they're so curious. I love that. We have horses in the neighborhood where we are here in Tucson, and we take our morning walks, and we're like, let's go see the horses, and they'll see you walking down the road. Obviously, there's cars and stuff, and they're like, oh, let's go check them out. What are they up to?
Yeah.
We keep a healthy distance because they're not our horses, and
Yeah.
I'm always one of those people, don't get animals used to you because you never know who's coming after you. You know what I mean? Next on the road, and it could be, one of the stupid ones. Back to that one again.
Well,
but,
you're right there. You're right there.
Yeah.
And
you have to protect them.
That's something that really everybody needs to be aware of, because there are people out there who are unkind or stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
And did I say that?
Welcome to Big Blend Radio. We may call you stupid.
So it's nice to make friends, but you're right. You don't know who's coming along, and you may set some animal up for something you never intended to. So.
Yeah, when we had our horses, we really didn't like other people petting the horse. unless we said they could.
Yeah, or you don't. Yeah, it's. I think it's hard when you have your horses on a road where people can go and talk to them. You know what I mean? I would. We kind of put ours there. You had to come into the property to see the horses or talk to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So then, and if they did that, then we had a lot of snakes in Africa, man. I'm just like,
yeah. And horses,
no,
horses are beautiful. They're always depicted as beautiful and friendly, and of course in cartoons they're depicted as, being able to converse in English. So I have run into situations where kids will come by and they've seen The Lion King and they've seen other cartoons and where the animals are talking to each other, and they really don't grasp the fact that real animals may not don't necessarily understand. They can understand certain things by your body language, but you just can't do everything to them. I mean, that you think you might be able to do, and it's kind of some people have a hard time separating fantasy from reality, and that's dangerous.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, they're a big animal.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they do
and they don't
bite.
have to. A lot of times they're not intending to do any harm, but something spooks them, or they turn around and you're not ready for it. You get stepped on. There's a lot of things that can happen. So if you need to have if you're going to if you want to see a horse, you don't have one, you've never had one, you need to ask the owner first. And ask the owner if you can pet the horse, and the owner will probably be happy to go with you, because most people enjoy sharing their animals.
Yeah, they want to talk about them, and it's an education part, too.
Yes,
so,
it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and then people understand, and when they walk down the road, they'll behave more. I don't know, but it's just so cool to see them. You just like you just talk to them from a distance. You just go, we look at that beautiful tail, look at that big mane. It's just so funny. How we all are. I have to tell you, what I once got a #1 ribbon with my horse, Cinnabar, who was abused before by a polo guy. He beat her up in the stable, and so she was a mess, and took a lot of carrots, and we just trained her through love. And it was pretty interesting because she came through on everything really beautifully, and but what we won, which wasn't a big deal for everybody, but it was a big deal for us. We came first in a fancy dress contest. I was dressed as a gypsy, but I carried a guitar and a big flowy thingy on my head, And for her to have me in a costume on her back with this big flowy thing, was, and for her, I think we won. I don't know if it was at first or third. I can't remember really.
It was first place.
Yeah, and I felt very comfortable that way. But anyways, but for her to have this flowy thing on her was, and for me to be not normal, it was kind of close. Well, she was used to that. But to me, that was something interesting for her to really trust, and that just shows this relationship, this bond between humans and horses. Well, Victoria, I have a song for you today.
Good.
I know. This is a safe one. You never know what I might play, but this is. I'm sure I've played it for you before. This is "Horses and Cattle." It's by Mike Muto, and in Silver City. New Mexico's enchanting cowboy. And I thought we were talking about horses and cattle and, cowboys. And everyone, this is off of Mike's album, Spirits Still Remain. You can go to MikeMuto.com. It's MOUTOUX, MikeMuto.com. Awesome following him on Facebook. He has all these nature photos he takes all the time, and sometimes videos and all kinds of good stuff. But anyway, so check that out. But everyone, again, Victoria's articles in the February through April issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, and you can see it also right now at blendradioandtv.com. But most importantly, go to Victoria's website. It's victoriachick.com. Thank you so much, Victoria. It's Always fun chatting with you, and this was another goodie.
Well, I always enjoy talking about horses, so this is fun for me, especially.
Yes,
cool.
exactly. Well, you take care and enjoy your song.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Spring on the ranch and the cattle are restless. It's been dry, the grass still ain't grown. They've knocked down a fence and now 20 are missing. We need to find 'em, bring 'em all home. But the cattle are scattered all over the place, down the draws, up the slopes, in the trees. There's only one way to get 'em, I'm thankful for that, with horses and cowboys like me. Summer on the ranch, new calves will need branding. We'll gather them up at first light. It's a pretty big pasture, we've got extra men. We're all gonna sleep good tonight. 'Cause the cattle are scattered all over the place, down the draws, up the slopes, in the trees. There's only one way to get 'em, I'm thankful for that, with horses and cowboys like me. Horses and cattle, the cowboy's life, it takes both to set a man free. The cows make you money, horses bring pleasure. Together, they're all that we need. Fall on the ranch, we're shipping the yearlings, busiest time of the year. We've loaded the trucks, the boss got a good price. The smile on his face says it's clear. 'Cause the cattle were scattered all over the place, down the draws, up the slopes, in the trees. There's only one way to get 'em, I'm thankful for that, with horses and cowboys like me. Winter on the ranch, we're feeding the cattle, using a pickup most days. Now and then there's other work to be done, I love to hear the boss say, well, the cattle are scattered all over the place, down the draws, up the slopes, in the trees. Saddle your horse and meet me back here. Today you're riding with me. When the cattle are scattered all over the place, down the draws, up the slopes, in the trees. There's only one way to get 'em, I'm thankful for that, with horses and cowboys